right, we're going to call this meeting of Powhatan County School Board, October 11th, regular meeting to order. Let the roll call reflect that board members are present except for Mr. Walters, who had a prior engagement. And at this point, if we could all stand, Mr. Cole, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation. Lord, we ask that you be with us tonight as we publicly discuss the business of Powhatan County Schools. Please guide us in our deliberations so that we may make the best decisions in the interest of the students, the staff, and the parents and citizens of Powhatan County. In your name we pray, amen. Can I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. And is there any need to separate out any minutes? None? Okay, let me have a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Brings us to a review of bills and receipts. Are there any questions by the board over this month's bills and receipts?
I had a question,
Yes, Ms.
Mr.
Emo.
Chairman. Do you recall when we talked about how the junior high, the money that was on that financial report but it was the salary and the benefits that went to the middle school, but that's why we were separating it. So my question was, the bills that are for last month, this month, are those, why do we have two separate entries again, like we did before?
Sure, because we are, for accounting purposes and for state purposes, we're still keeping the middle school and the junior high on the books because we get funding from the state for the number of schools that we have. And since technically part of the sixth grade is separate in a separate building than the other one, and we're under construction, the state has allowed us to continue to operate our 6 schools. And so that is allowing us to receive additional funding from the state to cover some SOQ positions. So because of that, we also need to run the books separately. So we have the 6th grade set up on a separate set of books than 7th and 8th.
So the 6th grade on the books is the middle school, and on the books, the 7th and 8th is the junior high school.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying
You're
that.
welcome.
Any other questions of the bills and receipts? Okay, at this point, it brings us to a public comment period. Is any people present who wish to address the board on any issues? There's a time limit of 3 minutes per individual, 5 minutes if you represent a group. If you do wish to address the board, please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, and seeing no movement, I will close the public comment period. This brings us to a presentation. I'll turn it over to Dr. Jones.
Thank you. I'll ask Dr. Alejandro to please come up. And the state has finally released accreditation results for the 2015-2016 school year. Powhatan County Schools once again did extremely well. And Dr. Alejandro is going to lead us in a presentation highlighting some of our accomplishments as well as some areas where we still have work to do.
Yes, and we'll start through the process. As you can see by the big check mark on the front of the presentation, we are fully accredited at all of our schools, and the accreditation did go to all 6 of our schools, even though now we are working with what looks like 5, kind of the similar question that you had, Ms. Emil, about finances, but we are running them as 6 schools for accreditation. We're going to start with big picture and look at overall results to begin with, and this is division-wide. We are fully accredited through 2019. The information that we have right now is that we will earn full accreditation for 3 years based on some having accreditation for the past 3 years. And then also those accreditation ratings are based on student achievement, which we know is SOLs, and our graduation rates. There are only 32 of 139 divisions across the Commonwealth that are fully accredited like we are. So it is a a great feat that we've got all of our schools that are fully accredited. And this additional accreditation status does allow us to take a look at other things that we can do in our classrooms other than just SOLs and meeting just those baseline benchmarks. So that's something that we're looking forward to in the coming years, to be able to move the dial forward a little bit with that. Again, SOLs do provide those baselines. Just some overall results again. We saw increases in reading, math, and writing across the board. We did see a decrease of 2 points in history and 1 point in science. And we increased or maintained scores in 18 of the 28 SOL subtests that we did. And those were as a division. One thing that we focused on last year was looking at closing the achievement gap. And we had some very specific areas that we were looking at, and we were pleased that we saw some positive results in those areas. The slide that you're looking at now takes a look at growth that we saw for Black students in reading and math, students with disabilities in reading and math, and economically disadvantaged students in reading and math. But the third column rather in each of those charts show that we still have work to do with those subgroups, in the fact that they are significantly different from the total population of our students. But we were pleased with the growth that we saw in those areas. The next slide really highlights some of the success stories that we saw in those gap group areas. We take a look first at our Black students. That's the top left chart. We had in English double-digit growths at both Flat Rock and Powhatan Elementary, and double-digit growths at all 3 elementary schools in math. In the top right-hand chart, we see students with disabilities. We saw double-digit growths in English and at both the high school and at Flat Rock and at Powhatan Elementary, and double-digit growths in math at Flat Rock and Pocahontas Elementary. And we saw growths for our economically disadvantaged students in math at Pocahontas Elementary.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Dr. Alejandro. So for elementary, though,
Yes.
isn't it really reading versus English, or this is
Yes.
just for the
Yes.
charts? That's
Thank you.
what-
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
It's the way it's listed on the state report cards is as English performance. So when you see it, it says an overall English score, but yes, it is reading at some of those levels. Yes.
Thank you.
For all of those successes, though, clearly we do have some opportunities where we need to look for improvement. We did see decreases in English in all 3 gap groups at the junior high school last year. We also saw decreases in English and math for Black students and students with disabilities at the middle school. We saw decreases for Black students in math at the high school, and decreases for students with disabilities at the junior high in math. And we have worked with our principals in those 3 schools to discuss what those issues are. We also know that at the junior high and at the middle school, there were some significant things going on at the end of last school year that impacted some of our scores there. But in all of those areas, our administrators and teachers are committed to making improvements for this school year. Another component of accreditation is the Graduation and Completion Index. We are going to do a presentation next month about college and career readiness, so you'll see a couple of the different graduation rates, but this is the one that is utilized for state accreditation. This is a weighted percentage that they use for each of the diploma types that we issue, and you can see the percentages that each of those diploma types count for in that bullet there. But the exciting thing is, over the course of the last 5 years, we've seen steady increases in our Graduation and Completion Index, and we're pleased to see that did some of that go off the bottom of your screen with it? So you can't see all of this, but it was a 98.4% graduation rate for our females, 95.7% for our Black students, 95.4% for our white students, 92.3% for our male students, 91.3% for our students with disabilities, and 85.8% for our economically disadvantaged students. I think the telling thing about that, too, is that the areas that we continue to say where we need growth at the SOL level is also are the areas where we see the need for growth in our Graduation and Completion Index, those students with disabilities and economically disadvantaged students. One of our big success stories this year was Pocahontas Elementary. They were placed on focus school status this year, which required them to have significant monitoring throughout the year. They received this designation for 2 school years. They are in the second year of that this year. But despite being in the second year of it, we saw tremendous growth in the first year of focus school status. And that truly was due to the hard work of Tom Sulzer and the staff at Pocahontas Elementary. They are the reason that they receive focus school status is 10% of Title I schools that are selected based on the achievement gaps that they had. So just in looking at some of those achievement gaps, the results were tremendous. 18-point increase for Black students in reading, 21-point increase for Black students in math, 18-point increase for students with disabilities in math, 18-point increase for economically disadvantaged students in math. So tremendous growth for our gap groups at Pocahontas Elementary, and we're very pleased. And the strategies that they implemented, we've included on this slide as well. And the good news is that they put in all the hard work in this first year, and it's spread to the other elementary schools. So some of the strategies that they're using at their school are also being used at the other elementary schools as well. Based on the results of our accreditation, we did make sure we wanted to have some focus areas for 2016-17. Certainly middle school performance is going to be one of those, and one of the strategies that we believe will assist with that improvement is the addition of the Positive Behavior Support System, PBIS, at the middle school, additional STEM engagement, and support from our instructional specialists and coaches at the middle school level. In the area of writing, which is an area of need, we've implemented a writing strategy called Foursquare, as well as a focus on English and history writing, so incorporating writing into the history program. And then continued focus on cultural competency through PBIS, our care committee, and we're having Adolph Brown come and return to work with us next year, or in the spring rather. Some new things around accreditation. We have reduced the number of testing opportunities for students, or requirements, not opportunities, requirements for students at grade 3 through 8. The high school, we're working on at the state level a reduction in testing. There's a new program that's coming out, or a new incentive innovation called Profile of a Graduate. We haven't seen it yet, though, so we're not exactly what it looks like. We anticipate seeing that early December, but we do anticipate reduced testing at the high school level. Also, we've seen it at the elementary level, and it's continuing to grow the computer adaptive technology, which allows testing to move more quickly for students, and they don't have to take as long, the tests that are as long if they are performing well on the tests. We also will be using our Chromebooks at all levels for testing. The testing programs that we're using are now Chromebook compatible. And we do anticipate the rollout of the new math standards. Those are coming out this year. Full implementation isn't for 2 more years, but those are just some things that are going on in accreditation. The final,
Excuse
yes.
me, could you expand on what exactly the reduced testing is? Because I get a lot of parents that want to see them go away. So could you be a little bit more specific on which ones have been eliminated for this year?
So it's not this year.
Oh, it's not
Yes,
this year?
It was,
Go ahead.
well, I'll do as best I can with my,
It was the reduction into just reading and math that happened last year. They haven't reduced any more tests, unfortunately, than what was done 2 years ago.
So then there's been nothing eliminated for this year?
Not at 3rd through 8th.
Not through. So then we shouldn't put reduced testing,
You're
okay?
correct. Good
Okay.
catch.
Well, I think we need to take that off, because it's, unless, of course, we wanted to do the reduced testing, then we can tell the parents that it is reduced.
there has been a reduction in testing. That's the clarification, but it's, you're right, 2 years ago, so.
2 years
yes,
ago.
Yes.
Okay.
Additional
Not
reduction.
additional.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And then the other thing that I wanted to show you was the actual preliminary view of the new school quality profile. If you go on the Department of Education website, you're going to see that there is the traditional report card that we've been using for several years. It's a lot of data in a very linear format. They have been working on a new school quality profile, and as you can see, it's a lot more charts and graphs. It's a little bit easier to read and understand. So we're looking forward to that being rolled out in December as well. That's it.
I like the snapshot there where it says it's simplified.
Yes.
That's a state's definition of simplified.
Right, right, and it's still, and this is just one page of it, so, right, there are multiple pages of this.
Serious question. I know there are technology standards that are now being embedded in the SOL testing, so is that going to come out with math? Is that the first one that's going to have them embedded, or are there some already embedded?
And they have not given us a full explanation on where those are embedded because they have to be fully developed. So that is just new legislation that is coming in, but they, just the same as we go through curriculum review for revising math standards and science standards, it has to go through that process as well.
Any other comments, questions?
Well, got to say congratulations to all those schools and all those teachers and certainly the students, but who have shown that improvement, especially in their subgroups. I mean, that's tremendous. And I think it's like you said, Dr. Alejandro, it's some of the things that we've learned by doing that, we certainly can incorporate as a regular part of what we do for our
Yes.
strategies. Thank you for doing it.
Ms. Hemo?
I wanted to go back to slide 4. I do see, specifically the black students, I do see that there are positive gains, but we still need to do better and keep working. When I go to the NAACP meetings, they want to know specifically, you know, what we're doing. You had mentioned on the other slide, slide 6, that there were some factors. So what were the attributing factors that you feel caused the decreases? So that I can
We didn't
answer
see
those.
decreases in
Well-
these areas. We've seen increases in these areas. Is that,
Right, but then on slide 6, where it says decreases in English and math for black students and students with disabilities at the middle school.
we just want to make sure that we have the same laser focus that we have for all of our students at the elementary schools at all of our levels. And so that's a growth thing that we have and that we've learned. So there are a lot of strategies that we use at the individual level at the elementary schools that we have been rolling out to the upper levels, and we anticipate to see those show gains as well.
I think also we have to acknowledge that there was a lot of uncertainty going on at the middle school and at the junior high last year with closing one school and moving and preparing for the move and not knowing what school teachers were going to be at last year. So while we did see a slight dip in performance at the junior high in some areas and in the middle school at some areas, and it's not something that we anticipate it continuing, we do have to recognize that just like students don't do well in testing when there's lots of stress and uncertainty, that stress and uncertainty that was an unintended consequence of the move that we initiated at the end of the school year may have played a factor in the performance of our students at the middle school and at the junior high.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Dr. Jones.
Thank you very much. I will just point out, we haven't provided you with the same level of detail on SOL performance this year as we have in previous years, and that's on purpose. Because SOLs, just like they're being de-emphasized at the state level with reduced testing at the elementary level and hopefully reduced testing at the high school level, and looking at other factors of student achievement that play into the profile of a graduate, which we hope to see in the coming months. We are also going to be looking at other factors like we always have, but we want to turn the focus away from SOLs and look at it mainly as a baseline performance of accreditation, but we do so much more instruction and high quality instruction beyond just preparing students from SOLs that we don't want that to be the sole focus of our students, our teachers, or our parents. And I think this presentation is just a representation of the de-emphasis of SOL testing and us looking at other ways to measure student growth and performance.
Well, I don't think you'll get any arguments from teachers or parents or students for that
think so either.
fact. And so I'm glad we are starting to really de-emphasize that, because there is so much more to teaching them, teaching the whole child and for them learning. And good, I say good.
Okay. This brings us to some recognitions.
Yep, you can join me down here. in leading a really innovative and high-quality instructional model for our students. So I'm going to ask Libby Kitten, who is our science and STEM specialist, to come forward and be recognized, as well as Barbara Hancock and Elizabeth Kirk, our two STEM coaches. If we could give them a hand.
We asked them to rewind the 5 o'clock.
You can go on the board docs at any time you want to make a presentation. Thank you. Thank you all for your patience and indulgence. Dr. Alejandro?
So we're fortunate to have several recognitions this evening. I'm going to, first of all, recognize the Virginia School Board's Academy Awards recognition. The Virginia School Boards Association recognizes and honors school board members, superintendents, clerks, and deputy clerks who have improved their boardsmanship skills by participating in in-service education programs. Time, dedication, hard work, and consistent efforts are required of each board member to stay well-informed on complex issues. Their participation in professional development activities at the state, local, or national levels is also required by Standard 5 of the Standards of Quality. Tonight we are recognizing Ms. Emel, Award of Recognition, Ms. Wilson, Award of Recognition, Mr. Cole, Award of Honor, Ms. Ayers, Award of Distinction, and Dr. Jones, Award of Distinction. Congratulations. We also are going to recognize Haley Obelwitz for the Virginia Farm Bureau Student Essay winner. Haley, if you want to come on down. On September... On September 29th, Virginia Farm Bureau Federation named 17 winners of student essay contests that focused on the future of agriculture in light of population projections for 2050. The winners received an opportunity to attend the nation's only vice presidential debate for the 2016 general election on October 4th at Longwood University. The essay contest was the culmination of a collegiate farm-to-table dinner and agriculture education program held September 15th at Longwood. Following the event, students were asked to submit an essay based on ideas they gleaned from the panel discussion. The event brought students together with a panel of agricultural leaders to discuss the current state of agriculture as it relates to the future forecast. The world population is projected to reach 9.7 billion by 2050. Farmland is lost every day that we cannot recover, and the average age of the American farmer is approaching 60. Our goal was to inspire students to think about solutions for providing a healthy, abundant food supply for future generations. More than 100 students were among the 250 participants at this event. One of the 17 winners of the student essay contest across Virginia was Powhatan High School 12th grader Haley Obelwitz. Haley has been awarded tickets to the vice presidential debate at Longwood University as part of her essay contest win. Nice job, Haley. We also want to recognize Powhatan's HOSA students, and I'm going to ask if any of them are here to come on down. The Powhatan HOSA Future Health Professionals Club won 2 blue ribbons at the Virginia State Fair on Friday, September 30th. There were over 300 students participating in the HOSA Day at the State Fair. PHS HOSA competed against dozens of entries in each category from schools all over the state, Northern Virginia, Virginia Beach area, Henrico, Chesterfield. Our students took first place in 2 of the 3 competitions that we entered. All projects required extensive research and fact-finding for each topic with very strict guidelines. Our competitors for the NAMI poster, first place, Haley Obelwitz, Madison Foster, and Whit Stevens. For the emergency preparedness poster, first place, Hannah Rayner, Lindsay Jordan, Harley Connor, Courtney King, Tiffany Carter, and Christy Atkins. And they've all been featured on the photos as well as the students who are here this evening. Congratulations, you all. That's it.
All right, this brings us to our consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, we are asking for approval of the consent agenda.
All right, looking for a motion for approval on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, superintendent's report.
Thank you. We're asking for approval for School Board Advisory Committee members. You can see several of the advisory committees are listed, along with community members who have filled out an application and agreed to serve on these committees, for which we are very thankful for our community support in providing us feedback and guidance. So we're looking for approval for these committees, and we will continue to collect names over the coming weeks and months.
All right, so for school board advisory committee members, is there a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the members that want to be on the school board advisory committees.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next item is to receive information, the Gifted Advisory Committee report. I'm going to ask Dr. Alejandro to introduce speaker to give us an overview of the work of the Gifted Advisory Committee in the past year.
So each year, the Gifted Advisory Committee submits a report on the extent to which the local gifted education plan is being met by the school division. During the spring, the committee gathers data, surveying gifted students, parents, teachers, and administrators, and there is a resulting report. We are fortunate this evening to have the chair of the committee, Ms. Becca Bowman, and presenting will be Jeremy Muller, who has children at Pocahontas Elementary, Pocahontas Middle, and Powhatan High School. Mr. Muller?
Thank you, Dr. Alejandro. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Good evening. My name is Jeremy Muller. I'm a volunteer on the Powhatan County Schools Gifted Advisory Committee. I moved into the district in 2014 and began serving last year. I have 2 children in the gifted program, and I look forward to serving on the committee again in 2017. I do want to recognize and thank Rebecca Bowman, the president of the committee, for her work and time this year. Rebecca, she's trying to hide. And I also want to recognize Ms. Emil for her participation. She attended every meeting and was quite valuable with her input. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So as you know, the primary purpose of the Gifted Advisory Committee is to report on the school district's compliance with the state mandates for gifted education as set forth in the state plan for gifted education. The 2015-2016 academic year marked the 4th year of the county's 5-year local plan for education of the gifted. The Gifted Advisory Committee is pleased to report that Powhatan County Schools continues to meet the county's goals for its state-approved 5-year plan for gifted education. Additionally, Powhatan's identified gifted students and gifted resource teachers have earned positive recognition for Powhatan County Public Schools. And we are fortunate to be the hosts of the 2016 Future Problem Solvers State Bowl, where several of our students and their teams received recognition for their hard work among their peers across Virginia. In order to acquire input on the strengths, weaknesses, and progress of the gifted program, the committee offered a survey to gifted identified students, their parents, their teachers, and their administrators. I believe the compiled data has been provided for your review with specific numbers and activities. We have elicited the comments of the parents, teachers, and students in the gifted program through this survey. and therefore act as a voice for them to the school board to state the overall needs, concerns, and issues that they raised. It's our duty as members of the education system, in whatever capacity we serve, to continually improve what we offer our students, their families, and the instructors. This seems especially so when we're concerning ourselves with those identified as gifted, who seek and require the most challenging curriculum and supportive of academic atmospheres. I'm here tonight to report on the highlights of what the survey has brought to our attention. Regarding the teacher survey, teachers of our gifted students indicated that 50% would like more training and more resources in order to improve their ability to instruct and inspire and to enhance their understanding of the characteristics and needs of gifted students. While 30% of instructors have taken courses in gifted education, only 5% of teacher respondents of the survey have an endorsement in gifted education. 41% of the teachers say consultation with the gifted resource teachers is useful, but teachers also commented on a lack of time and a lack of communication with the gifted resource teacher. Our gifted students at all levels, and again, this incorporates last year, so we had the elementary, middle school, and junior high, as well as the high school. Our gifted students request more time with their gifted peers and their gifted resource teacher. At the elementary level, students indicated the need for larger meeting space, more and better computers, field trips to extend their knowledge and experiences. 63% of these gifted students say the work done in their regular classroom is too easy, and 80% want more time with the gifted curriculum. In the middle and junior high schools, 60% of students said the regular classroom was on target. They request better communication with the gifted resource teacher and between the classroom teacher and the gifted resource teacher. The high school students have the opportunity to self-select their course load, and they're choosing AP honors and dual enrollment courses. But they also request more communication about the opportunities at the high school level and more time with their gifted peers. The parents of gifted students seek more communication and better communication in regard to the activities, opportunities, and curriculum being provided to their children. 1 out of every 3 parents say the curriculum must be more challenging. And 2 out of every 5 parents said the progress report sent home with a report card was not helpful in understanding differentiated instruction methods, which makes up a key component of the gifted education curriculum. More than half of the parents, 55%, did not attend the annual gifted workshop for parents and families, while 38% of parents found it helpful. The Gifted Advisory Committee applauds the school system for meeting its goals. Great progress was made from the 2015-2016 school year to the 2016-2017 school year by committing gifted teachers full-time to each elementary school. Agreed.
Could we just take
Thank
a
you.
moment?
Yes.
Because that is something that has been really the parents and students have wanted in this school. And Dr. Jones made a point of trying to get that in the budget for this year. So thank you.
Agreed, and all of us on the committee were quite pleased with that. While this was done in part due to the consolidation because of the demolition of the junior high, regardless, the elementary students will perceive a significant difference in their time spent with their gifted instructors. We hope this change will become permanent. We look forward to the results of next year's survey in this regard as well, as many concerns will hopefully be addressed by this addition of full-time staff. In summary, the committee found the additional improvements needed included teacher training, time allowed for consultation and collaboration between gifted teachers and classroom teachers, clear communication with parents regarding the overall gifted program, and clarifying the gifted progress reports. Our committee appreciates the opportunity to serve the Powhatan school community, and while this report focuses primarily on recommendations for improvement and change, we hope to leave you with the joy found in our surveys, as the pages of comments from our students, parents, and teachers illustrate their enthusiasm for learning and challenge. Specific programs such as future problem solving and the stock market game gained high marks among students. The desire to think and be pushed was evident, and their sincere love and respect for their gifted teachers was palpable. Powhatan County School District should be proud of the gifted program they are offering the community while continually looking for ways to improve it. This again is submitted on behalf of the Gifted Advisory Committee, President Rebecca Bowman, Mark Elzey, Teresa Guyton, Selena Scotia, and myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller.
Any questions or comments by the board?
Well, I'd like to say, being the school board representative on the committee, how hardworking each and every one of the members are, and committed to their students and to all the gifted students of this county. When I was reading the report, I noticed that it said no money for training and workshops, and every time I go over the bills and receipts, I see a lot of conferences and, receipts for that. So maybe we could, I know we don't know which teacher said that, but somehow get that out to them that they're allowed to go to training and workshops, are they not?
Absolutely.
I thought so, Dr. Jones, okay. And then I get maybe the next thing would be the more time to collaborate with resource teachers that we could work on for this coming year. But I can tell you that they're very excited that you listened and that we listened and that they've gotten more time at the elementary level. And I see a bunch of very dedicated and hardworking parents who are going to continue this year, and I look forward to serving with you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Miller, for presenting, and Ms. Bowman for being here as well. We appreciate the feedback, and we'll certainly take it and use it to continue to build and grow the program. Next item on the agenda is to consider approval of the contract for renovation and construction of Powhatan Middle School project. I recommend that the school board give approval to execute contract with Kenbridge Construction for the renovation and new construction of Powhatan Middle School project for an amount not to exceed $30,084,000.
All right, so for the consideration of awarding the contract to Kenbridge Construction, is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Well, should we just kind of synapse what we
Any
talked?
discussion?
What we talked about earlier for people that weren't here?
Any discussion?
Just that, the one question I had was, the next phase, we'll have our delays and fees, and this is just the contract for how much money they need to budget, that they need to come under. And then the next phase is the contract where we discuss if they will be fined if they are delayed in getting it opened when we need it open.
That's already in the bid documents that they approved to. What we'll be doing is finalizing the contract that will include some additional information about timeline and penalties for not meeting the timelines. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Just a question, approving this contract, per the discussion we had at the last meeting, it includes about $300,000 in the base bid that is going to be reimbursed from the county. So Jim, just asking from a legal perspective, is there any issues with us approving a contract that includes funds that the county is going to be spending?
No, this is within the appropriated amount for this project, and will certainly is still well under the amount of money that is appropriated for this contract. So there's no legal funds with doing this. This is simply us continuing to communicate with the county on two projects, the water tower that feeds into the middle school and the middle school itself, to make sure that we are in alignment with those two projects.
Yeah, I understand it's kind of hard to draw the line sometimes, and when, we're not approving as a board the water tower
Correct.
contract, but, here's some of the funds for that trickled into this project, which we are approving. So just wanted to be clear on that.
Sure. And the county has been notified that that's the case, and is aware that there's $300,000 that will be coming back to the school system to complete our project.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just to say that we're, you know, as one, I'm very pleased that we're where we are. It's certainly an exciting time for us, and doubly pleased that we came back with a price that is within what we thought it was gonna be.
And I guess I'll reiterate that, since it is relating to those funds, the questions that I brought up about the sizing of the water line for, the school, those get asked to the appropriate people,
Absolutely.
regardless of who builds it.
Yep.
Okay, we got a motion on the table that's been seconded. Any further discussion? Let's call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We're excited to begin work on the construction of our new school. I'm going to ask Mr. Johns to come up at this point. The next item is to receive information on our student activity funds audit for the year that ended June 30th in 2016. These are the funds that are held within the school that are activity funds that each school has available to it. We will be beginning the audit for the county and our school funds in the next week or two, but this is an audit just of student activity funds. So, Mr. Johns?
Yes, sir. The audit firm this year was Brown Edwards, and it's the same firm that did the audit for us last year. When they complete the audit, there are 3 items that they must give to the board, and those 3 items are included with this agenda item. And I'd like to make a few brief comments about each of those items. The first attachment is a letter from the auditors to the school board, which at a high level gives you feedback on the conduct of the audit. And I just want to highlight a few of their comments. One is that they did not note any transactions that were not proper, nor any transactions that had occurred and not been included in the financial statements. They noted that the financial statements are clear and consistent. There was no difficulty in dealing with management in preparing the audit, and management includes central office finance staff as well as each bookkeeper and school principal. There did not detect any misstatements. There were no disagreements with management in preparing the audit. They also noted that there was no evidence that we had consulted with other auditors in preparing for this. And they also stated that the information in these financial reports are appropriate and complete financial statements. And so that was the first attachment. There is also a sample letter in there in that management must each year certify to the auditors that we have given them everything and answered all their questions to their best of our abilities. And that's included in the audit. The second attachment is called financial reports. And the purpose of that is just to give the school board and each school principal a financial statement, which we have all agreed to and certified. These are our statements. They just were prepared by the auditors for us. There is, within that document on page 5 is a summary of all the school accounts. And then following that are each school account that includes all of their individual accounts that they have. The third attachment are the comments, and this is the area that we all pay most attention to. They have general comments for the system as a whole. The first 2 of those comments, one on cash receipts and segregation of duties, they make it on all school accounts for every one that they audit. And it's simply because of the nature of this business that's why they have those 2 comments. The number of comments, and I have made a response on each comment and each for every school. We have reviewed those with the principal and the bookkeeper, met with and reviewed those with the audit team. We've met with, some principals met with all the bookkeepers, had training sessions in response to these audit comments, and everyone has been addressed going forward. The number of comment findings that we've got this year as compared to last year, some schools were less, some were more, but overall it's about the same number of audit comments. Does any of the board members have any specific questions about any comment that they'd like me to address?
Ms. Emo?
Well, first, Mr. Johns, when I read it, I got the feeling that you or Dr. Jones or all of you asked them to put more in it. Because last year, I remember I had a lot of questions that you answered as in that this is a typical, and so when I saw the narration in the report, was it just me, or I just noticed that it was clearer? So I thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, all right. And the second thing I wanted to ask is, under where it says general,
Yes.
the statement about the comment on reimbursement checks to school staff has been reviewed with principals and bookkeepers, and they have been advised to limit these when possible. And then it says, however, there are times when these type purchases are the most efficient and timely purchasing method. So can you explain what types of purchases, what does that mean?
Certainly, I'd be glad to address that, because this is the first audit firm that's ever written, this type of a comment. Staff making purchases and then getting reimbursed for that happens all the time. And a lot of times it absolutely is the most efficient way to do that business. And this audit firm, their recommendation is that we run everything and write a check for everything and not do reimbursements. I don't agree with that. So the second sentence that you read, the however, is put in there because I don't agree with it. We have looked at that and I've met with, some of the principals, and we're going to reduce the number of the reimbursements that we've made this year. Next year, we won't have as many. But there are always going to be some times when you have to buy something and get reimbursed for it.
Of course.
And I don't want to tie our hands so much that we can't meet a quick need. So
Okay,
that's a
thank-
good example of some good give and take that we have with the auditors. I mean, listen to everything that they say, and if we can adjust and make an improvement, we will do so. And we're going to do so in this situation, but there's always going to be times that we're going to do reimbursements to staff.
Thank you.
Mr. Johns, is the reason for that comment specifically to offer more control over the purchasing process so that they know that every purchase is pre-authorized by the school?
Right.
I can understand that, but I agree with your assessment of it. And, from my experience, I don't believe it's possible to function without reimbursement checks for certain items, especially items that you just can't, you don't want to shop online for everything.
Right.
And really, that kind of limits you to, the big national chains. It doesn't foster keeping funds local
Right.
if you try to limit it to. So thank you for not necessarily following that recommendation 100%.
Well, and the odd thing, if I may, about the comment, the principal at each school, under state law, is the person that's primarily responsible for these funds. They have to pre-approve every expenditure. Some of these reimbursements are to the principal for purchase. So, yes, their recommendation is based upon the fact that they want to make sure everything is pre-approved, but if the person that has that authority is doing it, what's the point?
And I think ultimately, there is an approval process
To do
in every transaction, because
Right.
if there's a transaction that is seriously questioned, it won't be reimbursed.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johns.
Thank you.
Last item that I have in the superintendent's report is to consider approval for Powhatan Special Olympics is requesting to use a school bus and a school bus driver for a local or a statewide Special Olympics event, which we have approved in the past, but by school board policy needs to be approved by the school board.
Okay, so for use of the Powhatan County bus by Powhatan Special Olympics, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Wow. That brings us to next steps and follow-up items. And we have a number of newsletters to look at. But do we have, I'll start with you, Ms. Ayers, any next step follow-up items? Or
Just-
comments?
Just a couple. The first one is under the next steps and follow-ups on one of the items under there is the 2016 Delegate Assembly Handbook. If you all would go to section 9 and 10, not right this minute, but before our next meeting, and I'm going to ask Dr. Jones to review those for Mr. Cole and myself, that we will be voting on these at the VSBA conference. And if you have any questions about any of the things that we will be voting on, it's important that we have our board's input so we know that we're doing the will of our board. The other thing has to do with our retreat that's coming up, that just to remind all of you that we need to do our board self-evaluations to have at that meeting so we can work on becoming a better board. And that's all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Ms. Emo?
And, excuse me, Ms. Ayers, when did
Yes.
we get those?
Way back.
I gave them to you.
Probably
at-
2 months ago.
2 months ago at a meeting. I can,
It's online if you want to go.
yeah, it should be online. I think it was the August meeting.
I think it just came online in the last 2 or 3 weeks from VSBA. I think people look through VSBA.
So your hand gave us something?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, my next step, I am asking the board if we would draw up a resolution proclaiming the MLK Youth Mentoring Day to put in their program book. The Board of Supervisors does it every year, and I think it would look nice that we are, in the education field and that we're right there with them, supporting it.
I support putting it on the agenda. Then the board can vote on it.
It's fine.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
good.
Is there a cost to that?
To just do a resolution?
It's just a proclamation
resolution.
support of the day.
Okay,
And
so it's
then
probably, it's not
We
a
just
program.
make a
Okay.
copy and put in?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Are they gonna provide, is there a proclamation that the group is providing, or do we just draw one up?
I think we can just draw one
Okay.
up.
All right, we'll work on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now my thank yous and visits. First, I'd like to thank Mrs. Wilson for the professionally organized change to the minutes and attachments. I appreciate that. It makes it easier to read and remember, and when I have my children in the background crazy and I have to stop, and then when I come back, it's easier for me to follow. So I thank you for that. I attended the Extension Volunteer Recognition Dinner last week and the JROTC Craft and Vendor Show. Lots of good shopping. And let's see. Oh, I'm very excited about the 6th grade Belmead field trip and the pre-trip lessons. I went last Friday to the middle school, and apparently there were 2 sessions. I was at the 2nd session. And our Powhatan Today editor, Ms. McFarland, was the guest speaker, and she shared with the kids about being a reporter and an editor, and it was wonderful. She brought a bag of newspapers and got them all excited. And if you hadn't heard, their assignment is to write up an article about their trip. And they're doing all this pre-stuff, so every Friday there's a lesson. And anyway, and if you haven't seen, yeah, you sent us the agenda of the day. It is just it's more than what I could have imagined. And I think it is going to be such a wonderful model for other counties are going to be wanting to come. and see what we have. So I thank all of your staff, Dr. Jones, that helped put that together and that are still putting it together and working with all the kids. There was a lot of excitement in there, and I especially like the part where Ms. McFarland talked about how, was it 30% you got off? She forgot to do something, put a period, and she got 30% off of her teacher. And my son was complaining last year because he got like 5% off. So I'm thinking, you know, he doesn't know how easy he has it. Anyway, yesterday, the Professional Development Day, I went to hear the speaker there for the deeper learning. That was fabulous. I have to say, I originally went because when I saw the agenda last week about STEM going away, but I mean the committee going away, I kind of was like, well, what's this all about? So I'm glad I went, and I see the big picture and how it all goes together. And I could tell there was a lot of great learning, deeper learning there going on. Belmead. Oh, and last thing, I completed my Google Apps class at the adult education 2 nights. It was a 2-night class, and I'm really proud of myself, although I thank Mr. Cole for helping me tonight. But you know what I'm saying? I learn one thing, and then I feel like I'm 20 steps behind on a simple thing like that.
Team effort.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Cole?
First, just want to, I've got to say to the principals that I really do enjoy and get a lot out of your principals' reports. Don't, at least one of us, I think all of us read them, but I'm assuring you that I read them. I really do appreciate that update. It helps us keep up with what's going on. I want to compliment the Watchdogs program again. I'm happy to see that going on and the enthusiasm for that. And I'm real excited about the new library schedule becoming more open and open access. I'm looking forward to hearing how that goes during the course of the year. So lots of good things there. Mr. Salser, I like your T-shirt with the Deep Roots. I think that's a cool T-shirt. I guess Ms. Harris is here tonight, so thanks for doing that. Just a couple comments about things that I'd like to see us do maybe. We talk a lot about gifted education, but when we go to our homepage, there's not a link directly to gifted education on there that I see. I just Googled it a minute ago to see if I could come, a lot of things come up when I type it in the search box, but it might be helpful if we had a central link somewhere on our page for those special programs that we have so people could find them without having to go into the school to find it. It's just a suggestion. I found it pretty quickly, but it's a program I think we're very proud of, and it may be something we want to kind of feature somewhere out there. The other thing I would like for us to do, and once again, I'd ask the board if this is something we want to do, is to just at a workshop sometime to look at our governor schools, to review why we have governor schools, to review what the programs are about, to review the application process and what we spend on that. I think it's just good information for us to occasionally go back and look at again. Those of us who serve on the governor school boards kind of know this, but I don't think our public really knows about it and I don't even know the people that are directly involved with it know a lot about it. So I think it's just something that would be good for us to do. The related to that, we do a great job with summer learning in Powhatan County, and I think some of the things you talked about in terms of SOL scores and retention and being on grade level, I think our summer learning program impacts that to a great deal. So I'm not trying to create work for anybody, but at the same time, I think it's something we can brag about. If we could summarize somewhere summer learning and say, here are the things we do in the summertime. It doesn't have to be out there all the time, but maybe towards the springtime, putting that out there. I know we do it in the spring, but just saying, hey, here are some of the things we've done over the past few years. Here are the number of people that are participating. I think when other parents see how many students are participating in this, it will help us, especially with our enrichment programs and some of the other things. So just a couple ideas.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. And since you're bringing up principal reports, do the principal reports get onto the website after they're received by the board?
They're just on board docs.
It might not be a bad idea to put those on the respective school web pages, just something for the parents. They can see what what's going on. I do read them also. I find them interesting and informative. Follow-up-
Especially the dates. I enjoy the
Absolutely, yeah.
dates. You know what's coming up, you can jot it down and.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
For follow-up items for me, it's basically the water line. And just to recap, my concerns on the water line is that if the new middle school or junior high school is the only end user of this large water line, I don't want a situation where Powhatan County Schools has to flush 1,000 gallons every other day because there's, 10,000 gallons of water sitting in this line and not enough usage to keep moving it along. So a lot of times those things are sized based on, projected usage way down the road, and we don't have the usage. I think the county has the issue right now with the water tower, the one water tower they do have. They end up flushing a pretty high percentage of the water out of it just to keep the sides wetted and make sure there's no bacteria in there. So trying to just get a heads up on that for the new water line coming to the school. The other thing I'd like to just hear a little bit more about, maybe at the next board meeting, is how we're doing with the new Power School interactive grading and reporting system. I've heard some grumblings about it, just see if it's a come-up curve, people getting used to it, or if the issues are getting worked through. So that's it for me. And congratulations to all the award winners, the Virginia Farm Bureau and the Future Health Professionals. That's and my fellow board members have all won awards except myself, so I appreciate it. And you used to give that to chairman for the act of being chairman, but I think they stopped that about the time I started being chairman, so.
Well, then
No-
let's
no
make
problem.
one.
I'm not
let's-
doing
I
this, I'm
think
not
we
doing this
should-
for the award, thank you.
I think we should make up an award
No,
for you to have
no
at the
need-
next meeting.
No need to do that, no need to do that. That's all for me. Dr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just would like to remind the board and the community, we will be hosting a tour of the middle school on Friday at 9 a.m. We have heard back Mr. Nordvig, Mr. Williams, and I believe Mr. Melton will be joining us from the Board of Supervisors. So if you're able to join us 9 o'clock at the middle school, we'll tour the annex over at Pocahontas Elementary as well as the middle school, and look forward to that visit so we can see the new grade configuration in action. So that's coming up, and that's all I have. The girls volleyball team at the high school is playing right now for the, they won the first, all right, so it's for the district championship. So anybody want to join me over there after this meeting, you're welcome to come on over.
We'll wrap this up quick then. We have one more public comment period. Anybody wishing to address the board, there's a 1-minute time limit, 3 minutes per group. Seeing no movement, I'll close the public comment period, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.